Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Wonder of Faith. As always, I'm Anthony Bush, and this is the Sunday Dream for the 22nd Sunday in Ordinary Time. Thank you for joining me this evening, and we'll spend this hour talking about whatever I want to talk about. But I do want to in the meanwhile, just recap what I did videos on this week. So there are three main topics that I discussed. The first was from a video that had two topics, two constitutions from the Wondrous Orders. Um, the first one had to do with celebrating the faith openly and without any reservation. The second had to do with seeking out the beatific vision, or the divine vision as the Orders calls it. And then I did a video on love. So we can kind of talk about those topics for the next hour and dive into them. If you have any questions at any time, please feel free to put them in the chat. But I do ask, if you have multiple questions, to do one at a time so that we can break it down instead of having too much stuff on the table at once. So we can first talk about what it means to live openly the faith and celebrate it. So I said in the video mainly that we can't be fearful of being Catholic, right, or being Christian, or being faithful. And even though it's hard and many people don't understand it, the world kind of discourages it publicly, we cannot allow that to get in the way. And why? Because in order for the faith to be understood, you can't just leave it in the corner. It has to be talked about. It has to be faced, even when it's hard. And we do it not with fear, not with sadness, but we do it with joy, because we are manifesting that which we believe fully, and that which is at the center of our being. So that's kind of how we should approach it, I think. Of course, you have to be prudent. We can't be screaming at people about Jesus and whatnot. That's not beneficial. Rather, we have to be loving and see when the right time is to bring it up. And it's just a love of mine. I love theology in general, so I'll bring it up if it's germane to do so. But I'm going to be out there, just shaking people like, you need to hear X, Y, Z, because it doesn't do anything. So there's that. Then we moved on and talked about the divine vision, or the beatific vision. So for those who don't know, the beatific vision is the fullness of experience that when we die, when we go to heaven, or purgatory, then heaven, that we are no longer obscured from truth. We're no longer obscured from God, because we are in the presence of God. And so we know what good and evil are. We know the fullness of God's grace, because there's no longer any question. Faith ceases to exist, because it's now our reality. It's no longer a hope. So it's the beatific vision is something I think that we can slowly but surely manifest here on earth. Never fully, because we have to die for that to happen. But if we spend our days doing what we're supposed to do, our jobs, our schoolwork, but also taking the time to come to know God and lift our eyes literally upward, and of course spiritually upward to heaven, and see what it is that matters. That's why Christ says that we are to concern ourselves not with earthly things, but with heavenly things, because through the heavenly things, we can then come and understand everything that's around us on earth. And that's one of the reasons I'm a philosopher, or a philosophy major in college, because by understanding the greater things, it puts the things here into context, our job, our relationships, and everything else. So it's a very connected, I find. There's no disconnect between musing about the faith, musing about God, and also living our lives as we should. And in fact, I think one needs the other. So slowly but surely, if we move towards that, if we pray, if we study, if we come to know God directly, come to know God by loving ourselves, and come to know God by loving others, then we can develop this over time. We become wiser. And that's why the virtue of wisdom, it kind of relates to that. It's being open to God always, even when it's hard. And so that can slowly but surely allow us bits and pieces of the whole beatific vision. So it's never full, but it's aspects of it that we may come to understand over time. And then in my second video, I talked about love itself, kind of its origins, and what it means to love, not in any particular case, but first just to be um, a loving agent, a loving human being. I'd say I didn't talk about this in the video, but the first, for us to love, we must understand where it comes from. I think like we can love as human beings without being religious, of course. We have the innate ability to do that. Um, but uh, what we have to come to understand in order to see love in its fullness is, where does it come from? What is its origin? Of course, that is God. It is because of God that we are able to love as human beings. So, by seeing that that is the origin of love, and then seeing our own ability to love others as I'm trying to think of the right word, as a secondary source. So if God's the first source, and then He loves us, and then instills in us the ability to love, then we secondarily will love because God loved us first. And so we are able to love because God could, ultimately, the perfect love is God's. And so we are then able to spread out from ourselves and not just be selfish and self reflecting or self advantageous, but then bring light to others through it. And I always say, this kind of goes back to the first thing, in order to show people the true faith, it has to be from a source of love. Because if it's not, then it's merely rules, it's merely declarations and limitations, and that will never reflect what the faith truly is. And so it has to be out of a selfless giving, openness to the other, that we are able to reflect what the faith actually is. So it kind of connects in that sense. But love uh, comes in three different orientations. You can love God, love self, and love neighbor. Those are the three things that we can love. We cannot love an object. So when we say in English language, I just love that movie, we're saying we greatly enjoyed it, but we're not using love correctly, because we can't love an object. Um, Okay, we have had our first question in opposition. United Massachusetts, who's watching, says that it is not just three. I do love the church. Hmm, it's different. It's not an object, though, is it? It is It's a collection of people. So I'm loving the people, right? I'm also loving God and the Holy Spirit that enters the church. And of course, I love myself as a member of the church. So yes, I do love the church, but it's not because it's a thing in itself, but it is it has different components that I can love that are, um, do I love goodness? Yes, I do love goodness. Um, but I don't think it's the same. It's not an object, right? Like, it's not a box, it's not a piece of paper. It's anchored in something greater, such as God. I can know what is good because God allows me to, right? So I would find it as not a separation from God, but like a something that depends on God, and therefore I love it because I love God. The church is more than a collection of people. That's what he said. It is. It's not just an assembly. It has. It is a body. It has. It's institutional. There's the form of the church, the essence of the church, which is behind it, but which gives it what its authority. So I agree with that. Um, Objects cannot be loved because our love is to be reserved for the greatest of things. And when I say objects, I mean physical objects. I'm not talking about abstractions necessarily. But I don't love a lamp. I don't love a car. I don't love a house. I love people. I love things that have an inherent value to them that is higher than just a thing, an inanimate thing. So that's why I say it's limited to God, self, and other. in that way. And of course, yes, we can have love of things that depend on God, such as goodness or whatnot, but we cannot love them in and of themselves. Yes, the love of God is paramount. I would agree with that. But we still love others and we love ourselves. I'm waiting for him to respond. Uh, but the point is that love is something that's special, right? It's true if it is given to the correct thing. This is not even a thing, but person, which would be God's self and other. Um, Animals are borderline. I don't know if you love your pets or not. I haven't figured that out yet. It's hard because they are living, but they're animals, confined to their instincts. So I don't know exactly where the line is. Well, because we are called to love our neighbor. Um, and we know that we can both give and receive love from people. So it's uh, our we have the ability to do that. So Jesus died on the cross because he loved humanity. And he was the main example of sacrificing self for the sake of all. And so the love comes from God and is then given to those who are capable of receiving it. I'm not saying it's exclusive, that we only love people, but I am saying that love is overused. I cannot love a pizza. No matter how good it is, I cannot love the pizza. Um, that's overusing the word because the pizza cannot love you back. It's not able to receive it. It's inanimate. It does not understand the concept of love and therefore cannot appreciate it, cannot accept it. Um, so I'd say that's why we draw the line. That there are certain agents that love can be given and received from. But when you bring in not reciprocal, it doesn't have to be. I mean, in a relationship, if it's not, that makes that becomes problematic. Like it's a breakdown because it's not acting as it should. There is no mutuality, but it doesn't have to be mutual. No, I didn't say that. You can love them truthfully and honestly, but if they don't love you back, then that's going to cause problems. I know that is not a conclusion. And so he says, ergo, God never loved Richard Dawkins. That's not, no, I never said that. Um, God loves everyone, and we are called to love everyone, every human being, because they are human beings. And that does not change. Um, but we have to draw the line somewhere, right? Because, or else we just devalue it. It's like if you can use your gold ring to clean a toilet, you can use your gold ring to see through. Now, if you have all these uses of this very valuable thing, you devalue it by not using it what it's meant for. I'm not saying it's also the capacity to receive it. The pizza does not know what love is, cannot cognitively understand it. Therefore, it's lost upon it, and you cannot love the pizza. You can like the pizza, you can appreciate the pizza, you can have the strong feelings toward it, but it's not the same as love. Because I am not going to selflessly give of myself for the pizza, right? I only do that for people, for God and self. It is important, but it's not arbitrary. Because if we love something, it then requires certain things of us. Right? And when pizza does not have rights, it does not have certain needs to be respected. But why? So if we really bring up an idea again. So if we give ourselves for an idea, why do we give ourselves for the idea? Is it because the idea in and of itself allows us to love God, other, or self better? I would say so. And that is why it is loved, because it allows that. For democracy is your example. Sure. To sacrifice for democracy is worthy, I'd say, but why? So that people can be free, people can um, voice their concerns without despotism. So it's for the love of other, perhaps even self, that democracy is considered worth dying for. It will always be contingent on one of these things, which is why I narrowed it down to those three core things. I will give on the idea that there are things that are related to the three cores of God, self, and other that then we love because they help us do that more. They help us love the big three more. So he says, so I'm not really loving democracy, rather, I am loving the people helped by democracy. I'd say yes. You love the idea not in and of itself, but you love it because what it allows you to do, which is love others. I'd say so, yeah. He dissents, which I expected him to. It's fine. But yeah, I'm very, I don't know, like I'll tell you kind of a trend with myself when it comes to these sorts of things. I tend to look at an idea or aspect of self, such as love, look at its origin, look at its end, and then try to consolidate it into its value. So, like, what is it that makes it valuable, and how do we uh, allow its value to be known, its sacredness, even, and then how do we protect that sacredness from being um, eroded by external things? So, like, that's why I don't say I love um, Disney World because I'm not using it correctly, or that it should be reserved. A concept that should be reserved for higher things is not being used for higher things, and then its very meaning becomes weakened. Okay, I haven't. Here we go. Another question from UM. In your love video, you say that from a Christian standpoint, love is simply of God, or may even be God Himself. Given that John chapter 4 verse 8 submits that God is love, from whence comes the hesitation? Sure. Um, I remember saying that because I didn't want to be absolute. So to say God is love is a limiting statement. Love may have its origin in God, but to say God is love almost as all He is love. I think it has that connotation. It may. So that's why I kind of said both. I do believe God is love. Like, I don't doubt that at all. I didn't want it to be taken as it being limited to just that. I'd say it is true. God is love, but God may not merely be love only, because that's limiting Him. Um, True, it does not automatically limit it. But when we talk, this is a metaphysical question. If God's essence is love, that would mean that it's not necessarily the same as being all knowing, because love and knowledge are not one and the same thing. And so that you have to reconcile that understanding that if how can He be love itself, but the knowledge itself, or all knowing, rather not knowledge itself, but all knowing. But it's a metaphysical issue. I do believe God is all love, but I haven't found the right language to state that without making it sound exclusive, and that's what I was worried about. And that's why I gave the yes, God is pretty much being itself. God is what it means to exist. That's true. So I would agree with that. But it's a philosophy of language problem, or in this case, theology of language problem. I'm not doubting the concept. It's just a matter of how we express it that I think there needs to be some thought on. So that's why I hesitated. And I remember whenever I said it in the video, I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to say it this way so that it's not so absolute, just in case. um, but that's the only reason why. I don't doubt that concept. It's just I don't know how to correctly talk about it, is all. But yeah, okay. He keeps going. In that same video, you submit that love is a choice. To what degree is this true? Would you contend then that if one were to try enough, they could experience love for anything? Um, okay. Love is a choice, and here's what I mean by that. Two people can get married, but they have to choose to dedicate themselves to the other. They have to choose to sacrifice. They have to choose to make manifest love. Because love is not merely an emotion. It's not just feeling good about the other person. It is about choosing to put yourself before them and putting them above you and your own interests. And so, in that way, it is a choice. Same with God. You must choose to love God. You cannot automatically love. We must choose to accept God, His covenants, and whatnot. And that's why people can choose to follow the faith or not. That choice has to be there, free will, after all. And so, it has an agency to it, a rational aspect to it, to choose to orient one's love toward a thing. Let's see. Is this true of sin as well? And is love generally a choice, or can we also choose the type of love, romantic, familial? So, if we're talking about feelings with love, I think they're biological. So, there are hormones and things that help us, like a mother to be protective and love her child, or spouses to love each other. They're helpers. I find they're not love itself, but they are sort of like things to help get you to be loving towards one another. But I'm not going to reduce love to merely a biological state. And so I think they're mainly just like training wheels almost. That's the best analogy I can come up with at the time. Uh, that does not make love itself a choice. Love causes one to sacrifice for their spouse, but sacrificing themselves is not love itself. Mm, Perhaps you can do lesser things than sacrificing yourself. I don't mean like dying for them. That's, of course, is the greatest sacrifice, but I do mean like taking time to talk to them, taking time to buy them a gift. All these things that you didn't have to do, but you did because you love them. That always requires sacrifice. Because if you're loving them, then you're sacrificing time for yourself, for helping your own needs and things like that. And that's why I contend that it's a sacrifice, whether no matter how big or small. Uh, I don't agree with that. Love and action are not different. You can tell someone you love them, but I think it has to be made manifest. It has to be acted upon, or unless it's just words. And that's when the love becomes actual. You do it because you love them. We do use that language. Um, but if it's confusing, because if you love someone, but then you don't act for them, then do you really love them, or do you love yourself more? Have you refused to put them above yourselves, at least in this aspect? Not fully, right? We can't do that. Um, but like to take the time to do it at times, it's different. Uh, no, love is hmm, love isn't the action per se, but it's the cause of the action. Also, love has two parts. Without one or the other, it's not absolute or actual. It has to be first understood, maybe whether it's rationally or spiritually, that you're going to do or you're going to put yourself before the other because you care about them. But then it has to be done, or else it's not fully manifested. Um, so I think it has those two aspects to it. I'll say that. And without one or the other, then it's not the same thing. Because we have a problem if we can say you can love someone but not ever do for them or sacrifice for them, because then that leaves love just a word. Let's see, he says, so can you choose to love someone? You have full control over not just the action, but the thing that causes the action. I think sometimes no, and I'll say from personal experience. Whenever I befriend someone, I have a strong sense of care for the person. And like I tie my well-being to theirs. It's just natural. Like I don't know, I never choose to, well, I may choose to, but I think it's already because it's already a part of my soul to do that. And then because I care about them and love them, I then do for them and put them first as best I can. So there is a pull almost like God has chosen those that we are to live and sacrifice ourselves for, as I said in the video. Um, hmm, it's getting more and more meta. I didn't think, I don't know, because it's hard, right? Friends, it depends on what mode of love we're talking about. You know, if we're talking about romantic love, then attraction plays a part in that, and then it's not so much a choice, or some of it's more biological. Friendship, I don't know. It seems more like a choice, and that's why I think friendship in some ways is the highest of the relationships because it's not about attraction or whether it's more like you're just rationally giving of yourself to the other person, and there's no helper in that way. Love for God is a choice. I think absolutely. Um, because one must first understand that they have the capacity to love God before they can exercise it. So some people don't even know who God is. There are people who hate God and spite God. So I think love is a choice for God. You must accept God. As he's already accepted all of us. You know, we must respond. You know, that's the whole part of the catechism. You have to respond to God's invitation. And to respond is a choice. It's not mandated, or else free will and love will go out the window. Mm, well, I will say this: attraction is different from love. So if you're attracted to someone, you can still be selfish as hell, and not love them. You can still, you know, that's when we talk about in psychology the what we call the narcissist empath relationship. It's when like the narcissist will feed on the empathic person and like use them to self gratify without reciprocating in any way, shape, or form. And that is an example, I think, of not loving someone but using them, even if you have an attraction toward them. Maybe you're attracted because they give you what you want, and that's problematic. But it could be a reason behind that. Let's see, love. Is it love for family? Isn't love for? We do choose whether we spend time with them or not. Um, but I would say, and you know, this is something that's very personal for me because of my friendships and stuff. Like, it's very hard to say you love someone when they don't do for the person. So, like, if they don't make time for you, then it's like, how can you say that you actually care about me? Because you're not showing it, right? You're not putting your actions where your mouth is, and so it's able to be doubted. Um, because if you truly did, then you would be pulled toward acting for the other, and you would do for them. But because that isn't happening, then I think the concept, the very idea that this person cares or loves the other, is can be questioned. Uh, so yeah, I think unless you give yourself over to the person or like sacrifice in some way, not large, you know, even friends sacrifice for each other, but it's not a large scale thing. Like Jesus dying on the cross. But I think there's definitely this a lived active aspect that has to be present. Can you choose the cause of the love? I'll say no. I'll say there are people, you know, and who After time, you just come to appreciate them or want to do for them, then you befriend them or whatever. So I will say that it may be circumstantial, maybe, but it's not a choice. Uh, yes, but that's for people. For God, I don't know. I think it has to be chosen. You have to choose to give yourself over to God. You have to have faith to love God. You can't have love before then. So it is more choice. You have to choose to open yourself and then love God because of faith. I think faith is the main thing. Because I don't think Satan loves God nor the demons. They had a choice and they chose no. They chose reject. And so I think it's most definitely possible to reject God's love. Because that's the whole point of life. That is what life is about. It's about choosing to either take the invitation of God or to reject it. Um, do we not have faith in our partners? To a degree, but it's not capital A F faith. I'm talking about capital F faith, which is different. You can see your partner's right. You have physical evidence that they're there. Now, their motivations you may be hidden from you. You have to have faith in that way, but it's still a different thing from God and having faith in Him. And so I'm going to take a sip of water now. All right. He's quoting me again. The soul wants to be good. Is this an innate truth of all souls, or is it a general truth from which we can deviate? If the former, explain the rebellion in heaven. Okay, so I will say the soul was made to be good. That's what it's made to do. That's what it wants to do to fulfill itself. Now, can it not do that? Yes. The will can move against what the soul is made for, or what it will satisfy it. Irrationally so, but it can do it. And so I would say that the soul, when I would say it wants to do it, I mean it was made to do it. Like that's what's going to make it fulfilled. Now, can the person not want that? Yes. And it hurts them, but they can still want to not be good. Let's see. True or not true, how much we the more. Sure, the soul doesn't want to be good. Like it can will it not to be good. Our wills. But what I meant by that is, I'm trying to think of an example. I probably shouldn't use the word want. It's meant to be. But because it's meant to be, that's what will make it fulfilled. That's what will give it its fullness of existence. But the person itself cannot want that. And so deviate from that course of action. Um, but I think there is a part of us that wants to be good and tries to seek out God. That's why we have the desire for the spiritual as human beings, because in the end we are searching and longing for God. That's what we want, even though it's not a conscious want. Uh, He says his next question is my bread and butter, and we'll see if that's true or not. Must the motivations for a loving act be entirely selfless, or can selfish motivations such as the ones listed can be helpful and productive? If you're trying to get something out of someone, if you're trying to satisfy self by giving to someone in some way, it's not genuine. It's merely a facsimile of the real deal, of real love. And they may present like they really do love. They may put on a show like they really do, but it's not real. It's an illusion. And so yeah, we cannot mistake the fake version for the real. And too many people do that these days. They think they love each other. They think that they'll do anything. But when it gets down to it, they just want to satisfy themselves. They're selfish, because modernity points toward being selfish. It's like that's what you do. You worry about yourself first. That's how you get ahead. Yeah, I know what you mean. So yes, does it feel good to do good things? It does feel good to do good things. Does it feel good to see yourself as good? It does feel good to see yourself as good. But even though those aspects of self exist, we can't allow that to dictate the reason we do it. We don't do it to feel good. We do it because it's right. And sometimes doing good is hard because we just don't want to. We're lazy at times, or we're just, not in the mood. But we do it even when it doesn't feel good. And that's how you know the person loves the good for itself and for God, not because it makes them feel all bubbly inside or warm and toasty or whatever they're saying these days. So I'd say you don't serve others because it makes you feel good. That's a lesser reason. It's not the true highest reason. And we're all about the highest reasons here. We don't settle for less because we're worth more than that. People don't like whenever I say that because it's like, I don't know, it's like they just don't understand that the concept of like a higher purpose or like higher want or higher reasons because they're too worried, I guess, with like making sure everything around them is in order. It's the world makes it so easy to get caught up in worrying about the every day to day thing, the job, the schoolwork, being popular, whatever it is. And it's like if you were to focus on the higher things, then you'd be able to solve these lower things more easily because you have a greater perspective. People don't want to hear that. They don't want the greater perspective. They just want to do what they want to do, and they just want to be happy with themselves, whether even if it takes lying to themselves. And that just blows my mind. I can't fathom that, and I've gotten very tired just thinking about it over the course of months or years. Uh, is there an innate dichotomy or conflict between worldly desires and heavenly desires? Yes, and that's because I what I've just said. You have to, at the end of the day, are you worried about what God worries about, or are you worried about what you are worried about? You can't do both. You have to worry about, you either have to choose God or self. And it will always be more beneficial, or should I say, fulfilling to choose God, because that is what we were made to do. And even when and yes, you can say it just feels good to do that, sure. But I'm just saying your reason can understand it's a higher calling. And so we have to choose to worry about heavenly things. And then the worldly things will work themselves out as you live for heaven, as you live as God wants you to. Let's see. Consider two things. The church makes no condemnation of the pursuit of monetary goods in and of itself. Mm, we shouldn't make money just to say we're rich, right? We should make money so we can help. We can uh, meet our needs, right, and the needs of our family, and then use our financial uh, resources to help others. I'd say it can't just be about serving self. So yeah, money is a tool. It can be used for good or for bad. It depends on how we are oriented toward these two things. Why does the church make no prohibition on private property possession then? So, like, it's not bad at all. Like, we need property. It's good to have it. Of course, we always know we use so we can help others. We have to have what's ours, but we always know it's not really ours. Everything on this earth is God's first, and we are merely using it because He allows us to do so. So, our money, our education, our house, everything is it's not merely ours, but it's God's. And so we respect it and we use it the best we can because of that. If we must always choose God over worldly things, must we then reject all worldly things? You posit that there needs to be a conflict between the two. No. So through worried about heavenly things, it includes you have to then be responsible with worldly things. But we don't make preference of worldly things. So we're not going to live only for this world alone. But we live in this world, but not of this world. We live in it and do what we have to do to be successful so that what we can do, the good we can do, can be maximized. And no, I don't mean that in a utilitarian way. I mean that we can be good. To be good, we have to be able to have a place where we sleep at night, to have food. So it's not bad to worry about that, but we cannot let it control us or take over our lives. And then it's all about our image or our bank accounts and whatnot. So I'm not saying it's one or the other in that sense. It's heaven, but because you worry about heavenly things, you automatically worry about things of this world so that the heavenly thing can be reached. That's the way I'd say it. But yeah, we just die immediately because we wouldn't eat or anything if we just worried about heavenly things. We were made to have both a spiritual and physical parts of our person, and we have to be able to meet both. So Christ tells people to sell their possessions and follow him. When we sell our possessions, it's because we can't be attached to anything else. It's the attachment, I think, that's really the problem, that we are enslaving ourselves to material goods. And consumerism has brought that back as a big problem in the modern world. I agree. But I don't have material goods so that I can say how good I am, right? Or that's cool. I mean, we have Catholic possessions. We have Bibles, we have rosaries, and so we have these things to help us orient ourselves towards heaven. Um, but yeah, let's see. So we can't have material goods because they enslave us. I didn't say that. You can have a material good, but not let it enslave you. So we can, in fact, own something, and it's fine to own it, but the thing cannot control us. Like we can't let our car become our God. We need the car to get places, but we use it to help others. We use things to be means. Those are used as means, not people, but the things. But they cannot be ends in themselves. The car is not an end in itself. To give it that would be unwise and misguided. Just like you cannot love the pizza, you cannot worship the car or make it the paramount thing of your life. But I'm not going to say ultimately we cannot have any material good because that's just impossible in this day and time. I mean, you could even religious orders who take the vow of poverty, they own things in commune. They need things. They just use it as a community to avoid that attachment. Um, he's pushing me on why does Jesus say to sell your possessions? I think if we look at it in context of that day and time, Christ moved from place to place, so nothing was holding him down or the apostles, and they didn't have to carry all the possessions with them. They were free to move around and spread the gospel. Um, and to worry about worldly things, they'd have to um, not be able to do that, right? Because the possessions would take away their capacity to be truthful um, and speak to everyone. So I'd say none of us really do that in this day and time, especially the laity. Yeah, they needed stuff, just as we need stuff, but it's about worshiping things. To not have things makes it easier not to do that. But I don't think that we all need to sell everything. That would be catastrophic. We in the world today, that we can't live like that. And so what we do in the modern day is just we have things, and we don't have too many, right? Like I'm not here collecting a bunch of fancy things that are not going to do anything for me. But well, I do collect colognes, but I see that more as an art. So you can frown upon me later. But I think we can have things in moderation and not let them control us. That's how I think it translates to today. But yeah, materialism is bad. Surprise. And I mean both of them. The materialism that says that only thing that exists is the physical world, and of course materialism where we just collect things and try to make us happy. He says, "Do you subscribe to the privation theory as it pertains to love? How does the lack of love in your definition, should you accept the theory, hatred manifests itself in acts of commission?" I don't know what that means. Is then the natural tendency before love is added into the picture one of total and utter hatred rather than mere difference? Is this the natural tendency before love is added into the picture one of total and utter hatred? Oh, okay. So the way you describe it, it's that if love didn't exist, we'd just be haters, filled with hatred. I don't think that's true. I think apathy is the opposite of love. Because hatred, in some sense, implies that there is an attachment to the thing you're hating. There's a relationship there with it. Apathy is just not even acknowledging the existence or dignity of something. And so I think that that's worse in the natural state, just apathy. I don't think murdering someone is a lack of love. I think many domestic abuse cases end up where they fight and they may harm one another, but it doesn't mean they didn't love them. Of course, it wasn't the love that made them kill them. That would be perverted. Yeah, I'd say it's not hatred, but apathy. That's the opposite. Because if God's existence itself, we have to then deny the existence of the thing that we're apathetic toward, or just completely disregard. Hatred doesn't. Hatred, in and of itself, acknowledges existence and the being of the thing. So that's why I would move more toward apathy. I'm going to say this right now. I don't know who came up with this, but because is here, he's a Thomist. I'm going to say just because Thomas Aquinas says it doesn't mean it's 100% agreeable. Like I reason through it, and I will question it if I find something to be worth questioning. And just because his name's attached to an idea does not make it 100% absolute. Um, Now, is he a great benefit? Yes. And is he right about many things? Yes. And do I appreciate him as a saint and as a doctor of the church? Yes. But yeah, I had to sass Aquinas for a moment. Same with Augustine. He he kind of went off the deep end sometimes. I think it was him who thought like everything was a sacrament. Like he started getting crazy and like it's not just the seven, but like um even the smallest things becomes a sacrament, and that's once again it's overusing a term and devaluing its sacredness. I love Augustine, I do. I never said I didn't. You know, like he because of him, we understand original sin, and like yeah, it puts a lot of things in context. It does, and so I'm thankful to him for that. Of course, City of God, and his understanding of how we live in a non-Christian world, but yet remain faithful. Yeah, together they're Augustine's greater than Aquinas. I thought you were an Aristotelian. Oh my gosh, that's heresy right there for you. I'm surprised to hear you say that. In the high message for this video on the course Discord server, you said you would speak of moving towards the beatific vision. Typically, theology contends that beatific vision is acquired in heaven. Is it possible to move towards such a vision on earth, short of divine intervention? Is it not binary then? Okay, I know it's used that way. Maybe that's why I use divine vision more. So its fullness, of course, which is infinitely more than we can fathom and cognize, will be understood in heaven. It'll be revealed to us. But I like to think that if it's like sitting down with your friend, right? or your daddy, and you talk to him, and then the more you talk to him, the more you come to know him and you understand things. And so, similarly, the more you come to God, the more you talk to him, the more you listen, the more you come to understand. So, I think you can slowly, like very minutely, move toward a heavenly understanding. It's never going to be, that like after you die and go to heaven, it'll be a small crack in the door, I'd say. And so I'll say that we get a small piece of it, but not the full thing. That's kind of the way I formulate it. Well, you may straddle the middle, but I'm very platonic. The things unseen are are um, first, and then the things seen derive therein. We can act in the good because the good exists separate from ourselves. We can accept it and embody it, but it itself is not seeable, which makes it mystical. It makes it uh, profound, and which allows us to. That's why philosophy exists, because we're able to pursue these things through our reason and souls. And while science allows us to pursue those things here on Earth, which is very important too. I will never say science is bad or unimportant. I will never say that. People try to think I say that, but I never will. Uh, I will say I'm going to use divine vision. That's the way the Orderian term for it, because yes, to differentiate it from beatific vision, I will do that. But it's basically the same thing. I'm not going to lie. Think of divine vision as a lesser version, an incomplete version. Like we probably have 0.000000001% of it by the time we die. Um, he decided to post that I hate science. That's a big frowny face on my part. Like, try again, homie. Last question. I am ready. Is Brenda Carlisle and by extension Flo from Progressive correct as seeing that heaven is a place on earth? Wow, that's very specific. If we can move towards beatific vision, is it then also correct to say that we can move towards heaven? Can you think of a piece of music that unintentionally conveys a significant theological truth? Yes. Yes to the last one. Um, can we move towards beatific vision? Is it not? Yes. I think I always, whenever I'm around older people, like senior citizens, I sometimes think to myself, dang, you're lucky. You're closer to heaven than I am. Because odds are they are. And also, just living life, there is a wisdom that comes to older people that I think kind of shows that they're closer to heaven than me. And I think it's like a horseshoe. So, like, babies are from heaven, whether they were made at conception, but it's like they come from God and then they kind of live life and then return. So it's like a return deal. That's the way I visualize it. Um, let's see. Piece of music that unintentionally conveys a significant theological truth. There's a song. I wanted to do it for my Harmony of Faith show. It's called Love Someone, and I think it's by, oh gosh, what's his name? What's the name of the band? Lucas Graham. That one. And one line in it is, if you when you love someone, you make room. And like that struck me because it's right. That's where I kind of got on my hype about action and love. Because when you love someone, you make room for them, regardless of how hard it is. You do it without question. So like that's something that was profound for me. I always thought, see, when I hear songs like that, it's not that I've never thought of it before. It's like I've just never put it into words. So like when he said that, like I realized, like I knew it, but I've never put it that way before, and I've never like vocalized it. It's like I'm like, yeah, he's right. You do make room. Um, and so I really latched onto that. So I may do that song eventually. I had another one too. I was going to do. We'll see. It reminds me of my motto. Uh, I will be true to you, whatever comes. That is my motto, and it comes from a movie, The Tree of Life, directed by Terrence Malick in 2011, and it is my favorite movie, as anyone who knows me can tell you. And it's a Job story. So the parents are they lost a son, and now they had to deal with that. And the mom is saying this as the man's coming to give her the note that her son died. And as he's walking up, she says, in a voiceover, "I will be true to you, whatever comes." And she's talking to God. And of course, as she's saying that, the man's come to tell her son died. And so that's very profound. Like, regardless of what, I will be true to you, whatever comes. I'm saying that to God. I'm saying that to myself, and I'm saying it to everyone who counts on me, and everyone who is a part of my life. Because that's the deal, right? To be true to me is to be true to who God made me to be. To be true to God means to be true to who I was made to be. And to be true to others is to be true to both God and myself. And so I don't separate them at all. It is all one stroke of life. It's never disjointed or contradictory, but it's all one full action that is life, one full prayer that is life. And it's a giving constantly and out of joy. Like I genuinely love doing things for other people, especially those I care about. And it's like there's nothing else like it. And so I live, I pray, I hope, I do all these things so that I can be fully who I was meant to be. And that's what's going to make me happy. And I know that. It's just a matter of doing it. Yes. It's like I know you love your divine simplicity, and it's like, yes, it's very simple. We humans love to overcomplicate things, and then we hurt ourselves and we become paranoid in the process. But if we take it back to simplicity, then it's really easy to see that it's just one stroke of the arm almost. Like this is a life, And did I move my arm with the greatest of reverence, the greatest of compassion, with the greatest perfection as best I could? Of course, the answer is no, but that's because I'm a broken human being who needs God to save me from my sinful horridness. But don't we all? Um, it's a process, yeah. I'm gonna talk about life next summer. That's a good topic because you can go on forever about life and just like how to approach it. Um, but I've learned a thing or two, mostly by thinking. I'm a thinker, but sometimes by living. But thinking is part of living. That's what I say. I'm very much internalized, so I spend most of my life in my head. Um, yes, the hand. That's a very good point. Comparing, receiving the I see what you. Oh my gosh, I see what you did there. Are you bringing back receiving on the hand? Is that what's happening right now? We've been through this already. I don't need that sass. But receiving the Eucharist and talking about it in the context of it being a symbol of life itself is a beautiful concept. And I may just do that next time because that's a nice and pretty consistent image. So yeah, I'll definitely do that. See, I thought you were playing with me when you did that. You emphasize on the hand, um, or arm, which assumes the hand. But yeah, we have 40 seconds left. It never seems like an hour. It's always fun talking, mainly to you, and maybe people will watch it after. Who knows? But yeah, divine symbol. I'll think about it. Oh no, no double effect. I am not doing that. Try again. That's up your alley. If you want to make YouTube videos on that, go for it. We can talk about those things later, though, and I can argue why they're problematic. Not divine simplicity, but like the doctrine of double effect. Um, but yeah, I will see you next time. Be thinking about more questions for next Sunday, and may God be with you and bless you, and may you find final victory in Christ. Good night. Yes, you do need to make a YouTube channel. Good night.